Welcome back, faith builders. We continue a journey now with the second book of Adam and Eve, exploring chapters 11 to 20. These chapters are filled with profound lessons on resilience, faith, and the human spirit's strength. Let's dive in. Chapter 11. After the death of Adam and Eve, Seth severed his children and his children's children from Cain's children. Cain and his children dwelt westward, below the place where he killed Abel. Seth and his children dwelt northwards upon the mountain of the cave of treasures, to be near to their father Adam. Seth the elder, tall and good, with fine soul, and of strong mind, stood and tended them in innocence and meekness. Because of their purity, they were named children of Elohim, and they were with Elohim. They continue in praises and singing psalms unto him in their cave. Seth continued to pray day and night and ask for mercy towards himself and his children. And when they had difficulty dealing with a child, he would give counsel. Seth and his children did not like earthly work, but gave themselves to heavenly things. For they had no other thought than praises, doxologies, and psalms unto Elohim. At all times they hear the voice of angels, praising and glorifying Elohim from within the garden, when sent by Elohim on an errand, or when they were going up to heaven. Because of their purity, Seth and his children heard and saw those angels. They sowed not, neither did they reap. They wrought no food for the body, but only offerings. They ate the fruit and trees that were well flavored and grew on the mountain where they dwelt. They often fasted every 40 days. They were happy and innocent, without sudden fear, no jealousy, evil action, or hatred among them. For they never swore, but under hard circumstances, when men must swear, swore by the blood of Abel the just. They did all these until the end of Seth drew near. Chapter 12. Seth called his son Enos, and Cainan, son of Enos, and Mahalalel, son of Cainan, and said to them, As my end is near, I wish to build a roof over the altar on which gifts are offered. They hearkened to his commandment and went out. All of them, both old and young, worked hard at it, and built a beautiful roof over the altar. Seth thought in so doing, a blessing should come upon his children on the mountain. When the building of the roof was completed, he commanded them to make offerings. They worked diligently at these and brought them to Seth, who took them and offered them up at the altar, prayed to Elohim to accept their offerings, have mercy on the souls of his children, and to keep them from the hand of Satan. Elohim accepted his offering, sent his blessings upon him and his children, and made a promise to Seth. Then they all met together and came down from the altar, and went to the cave, where they prayed and blessed themselves. But after a few days, Seth suffered suffering unto death. Then Enos came to him with Cainan, and Mahalalel, and Jared, Mahalalel's son, and Enoch, Jared's son, with their wives and children, to receive a blessing from Seth. Then Seth prayed and blessed them, and begged of them not to let any of them go down from this holy and pure mountain. Make no fellowship with the children of Cain, the murderer and sinner. For ye know, my children, we flee from him with all our might. Seth blessed Enos, his first son, and commanded him to keep all he had taught them, and at times go to the altar, and feed his people in righteousness, judgment, and purity all the days of his life. Then his limbs were loosened, his hands and feet lost all power, his mouth became dumb, and he gave up the ghost and died. He was 912 years, on the 27th day of the month of Eve, Enoch being 20 years old. They wound up his body, embalmed him with sweet spices, and laid him in the cave, on the right side of Adam's body, and mourned 40 days. They offered gifts for him done for their father Adam. Enos rose as the head of his people, whom he fed as his father had commanded him. By the time Enos was 820 years old, Cain had a large progeny, for they married frequently, being given to animal lusts until the land below the mountain was filled with them. Chapter 13. In those days lived Lamech the blind, who was the son of Cain. He had a son whose name was Atun, and they too had many cattle. Lamech was in the habit of sending them to feed with a young shepherd who tended them, who when coming home in the evening wept before his grandfather, and before his father Atun, and his mother Hazina, and said, "As for me, I cannot feed those cattle alone, lest one robs me of some of them, or kill me for the sake of them. For among the children of Cain there was much robbery, murder, and sin." Lamech pitied him and said, "Truly, he when alone might be overpowered by the men of this place." So Lamech arose, took a bow he had kept ever since he was a youth, ere he became blind, and he took large arrows and smooth stones, and a sling which he had, and went to the field with the young shepherd, and placed himself behind the cattle, while the young shepherd watched the cattle. Thus Lamech did many days. Cain, ever since Elohim had cast him off, and had cursed him with trembling and terror, could neither settle nor find rest in any one place, but wandered from place to place. In his wandering, came to Lamech's wives and asked them about him. They said he was in the field with the cattle. Then Cain went to look for him. As he came to the field, the young shepherd heard the noise he made, and the cattle herding together from before him. He said to Lamech, "O my lord, is that a wild beast or a robber?" Lamech said, "Make me understand which way he looks when he comes up." Then Lamech bent his bow, placed an arrow on it, and fitted a stone in the sling. And when Cain came out from the open country, the shepherd said to Lamech, "Shoot, behold, he's coming." Lamech shot at Cain with the arrow and hit him in his side. Lamech struck him with a stone from his sling. That fell upon his face and knocked out his eyes. Then Cain fell at once and died. Then Lamech and the young shepherd came up to him and found him lying on the ground, and the shepherd said to him, "It is Cain our grandfather, whom thou hast killed, O my lord." Then was Lamech sorry for it, and from the bitterness of his regret, he clapped his hands together and struck with his flat palm the head of the young shepherd boy, who fell as dead. But Lamech thought it was a feint, so he took up a stone and smote him, and smashed his head until he died. Chapter 14. When Enos was 900 years old, all the children of Seth and Cainan, with their wives and children, gathered around him, asking for a blessing from him. He then prayed over them, and blessed them, and adjured them by the blood of Abel, the just, saying, "Let not one of your children go down from this holy mountain, and let them make no fellowship with the children of Cain the murderer." Then Enos called his son Cainan, and said to him, "See, O my son, and set thy heart on thy people, and establish them in righteousness, and in innocence, and stand ministering before the body of our father Adam, all the days of thy life." After this Enos entered into rest, aged 985 years, and Cainan wound him up, and laid him in the cave on the left of his father Adam, and made offerings for him, after the custom of his fathers. Chapter 15. After the death of Enos, Cainan stood at the head of his people in righteousness and innocence, as his father had commanded him. He also continued to minister before the body of Adam, inside the cave of treasures. Then when he had lived 910 years, suffering and affliction came upon him. And when he was about to enter rest, all the fathers and their wives and children came to him. And he blessed them, and adjured them by the blood of Abel, the just, saying to them, "Let no one among you go down from this holy mountain, and make no fellowship with the children of Cain the murderer." Mahalalel, his first son, received this commandment from his father, who blessed him and died. Then Mahalalel embalmed him with sweet spices and laid him in the cave with his fathers. And they made offerings for him, after the custom of their fathers. Chapter 16. Mahalalel stood over his people and fed them in righteousness and innocence, watching them to see they did not have intercourse with the children of Cain. He continued in the cave praying and ministering before the body of Adam, asking Elohim for mercy on himself and other people, until he was 870 years old when he fell sick. Then all his children gathered unto him to see him and ask for his blessing, ere he left this world. Then Mahalalel arose and sat on his bed, tears streaming down his face, and called his eldest son Jared, who came to him. He kissed his son and said, O Jared, my son, I adjure thee by him who made heaven and earth to watch over thy people, and to feed them in righteousness and innocence, and not let them go down from this holy mountain to the children of Cain, lest they perish. Hear, O my son, hereafter there shall come a great destruction upon this earth on account of them. Elohim will be angry with the world, and will destroy them with waters. But I know that thy children will not hearken to thee, and will go down from this mountain, and hold intercourse with the children of Cain, and they shall perish with them. O my son, teach them, and watch over them, that no guilt attaches to thee on their account. When I die, embalm my body and lay it in the cave by the bodies of my fathers, then stand and pray to Elohim, and take care of them. Fulfill thy ministry before thee, until thou enterest into rest thyself. Mahalalel then blessed all his children, and lay down on his bed, and entered into rest like his fathers. Jared saw that his father was dead. He wept, and sorrowed, and embraced and kissed his hands and feet, and so did all his children. His children embalmed him carefully, and laid him by the bodies of his fathers. Then they arose and mourned him for 40 days. Chapter 17. Jared kept his father's commandments, and rose like a lion over his people. Wherefore did he give them orders repeatedly, and continued to do so until the end of 485th year of his life. Satan envied him and wrought a beautiful apparition, because Jared would not let his children do anything without his counsel. Satan appeared to him with 30 of his hosts, in the form of handsome men, Satan himself being the elder and tallest with a fine beard. They stood at the mouth of the cave and called out Jared. He came out and found them looking fine men, full of light, and of great beauty. He said in his heart that the children of Cain cannot come up to the mountain, and none is this handsome, they must be strangers. They exchanged greeting, and he said to the elder among them, Explain to me wonders of thee, and tell me who these are with thee. The elder began to weep, and the rest of them also wept, and said to Jared, I am Adam, and these is Seth, Enos, Cainan, and thy father Mahalalel. But Jared remained wondering at their appearance, and at the speech of the elder to him. The elder said, Marvel not, we live in the land north of the garden, which Elohim created before the world. Satan kept lying and trying by all means to convince Jared by narrating all the events that has happened for him to believe him. Satan continued saying, Jared my son, we live in beautiful regions, while you live here in misery. As this thy father Mahalalel informed me, of a great flood will come and overwhelm the whole earth. As we approached the mountain, we found other men below the mountain, who inhabit a beautiful country, full of trees and of fruits, and all manner of venture. We thought they were you, until Mahalalel told us they were not. Now my son, hear my counsel, and go down to them with their children, and rest from all thy sufferings, or come with us to our beautiful land. Jared, hearing this, looked for his children, but found them not. He said to the elder, Why have you hidden yourself until now? And Satan said, If thy father have not told us, we should not have known it. Then Jared believed his words were true. Come with us, thou see our country. If the land in which we dwell pleases thee, we and thou shall return hither and take the family with us. But if our country does not please thee, thou shalt come back to thine own place. Jared came out of the cave and went with them, and they comforted him until they came to the top of the mountain of the sons of Cain. Then the elder said to one of them, We have forgotten something at the mouth of the cave, and that is a chosen garment we brought to clothe Jared. He said to one of them, Go back and get them. We will wait for thee. Then he left, but when he was a short distance away, the elder called to him to wait. The elder said to him, One thing we forgot is to put out the lamp that burns inside the cave, above the bodies that are therein, and come back quickly. He went, and the elder joined the fellows, and they came down from the mountain, and stayed by the fountain of waters, near the house of the children of Cain. and waited for their companion until he brought the garment for Jared. 3 of them went into the houses of the sons of Cain and said, "Bring us today some food by the fountain of water, for us and our companions to eat." The sons of Cain saw them and wondered at such beautiful-looking men, such they had never seen before. They rose and came to them in the fountain of waters to see, found them very handsome, that they cried aloud that others to gather together to come and see, both men and women. The elder said, "We are strangers. Bring us good food and drink, you and your women, to refresh ourselves with you." They brought their wives and daughters, to behaved in all sort of manners. Jared saw what they did. His soul wrenched itself from them, and neither would he taste their food or drink. The elder saw the manner Jared was and said, "Do not be sad, as they see me, do the same manner likewise." He spread his hands and took some of the women, same with his companions, expecting Jared to do the same. When Jared saw them, he wept and said in his mind, "My fathers never did like this." He spread his hands and prayed with a fervent heart and with much weeping, and entreated Elohim to deliver him from their hands. No sooner Jared began to pray, the elder fled with his companions, for they could not abide in a place of prayer. Jared turned around, but could not find them, standing among the children of Cain. He wept and said, "Elohim, destroy me not with this race, concerning which my fathers have warned me about. For I thought these were my fathers, but found out to be devils, who allured me by a beautiful apparition until I believed them. But now I ask thee, O Elohim, deliver me from this race, among whom I am now, as thou delivered me from those devils. Send thy angel to draw me out of the midst of them, for I have not myself the power to escape from among them." Jared ended his prayer. Elohim sent his angel in the midst of them, who took Jared and set him upon the mountain, showed him the way, gave him counsel, and then departed from him.